Caribbean Wellness. I am Dennise Demming. We have conversations about wellness.
Thanks for having me. My PhD is in educational psychology, and my thesis was the factors that affect the life satisfaction of parents of children with autism spectrum disorder in Trinidad and Tobago. Practically with any situation where education and learning is concerned. And very often we don't understand that everyone can learn. That's the first thing we need to understand. Everyone has different potential, but everyone can learn. And systems, formal and informal, need to support learning. That's the general idea of it. And very often we think of parents of children who have any learning disability or any special need as only having negative outcomes. And what the data and the analysis has shown, that there are several positive outcomes for parents who are resilient, who depend on their formal and informal support systems, and who thrive in terms of taking care of their children. Of course, there are some who struggle, and that's because of a lack of formal, consistent support systems. Our education system is not a bad system. Our education system produced you, it produced me. We're not perfect, but I think we're coping and we're productive, and many others like us in several different generations. So we can't say it's a bad system. It's not a failing system. Where my concern comes in most predominantly is it tends to focus on the achievers and not consistently enough on the underachievers. And there are reasons for underachievement, which are in most cases systemic and not individual. But our system still tends to focus a lot on whether or not the child is bright, or the child is working hard enough, or the child is focused. And all those things are important. But what is more important is whether or not we identify learning disabilities, special needs, and if we're providing consistent support for those who are falling through the cracks. So it ends up being that the system is failing that child, or the system is failing that cohort. And then we end up with the issues we see in society. So I think if we focus on that, and we focus on the lower 30th percentile, then we will see a societal change that we all so eagerly are hoping for. We're slowly making a shift to emotional and psychological health, but we only even focus on, many of us, on physical health when there's an illness, when there's a malady, when there's a pathology. Same for mental health. We don't look at consistently focusing on wellness and how to keep ourselves mentally fit and what goes into that. And we live in a very, very stressful society, particularly coming out of the pandemic, or still in the end of the pandemic. We're in a very oppressive, crime-riddled society, and how anxious we are all the time without even realizing it. So we need to focus a lot on mental wellness and what goes into that. In the US in particular, I'm reading about a lot of cases where employers are finding themselves in some sticky water because employees are taking days off and saying they're anxious, or they don't feel mentally well. And you can't tell somebody how they're feeling inside. You can say you have the flu or you have a fever, but mental health is more internal. Yes, there are external exhibitions of it, but very often because of the workplace situations, people are feeling tense, stressed, and anxious. And they're claiming that and they're valid in terms of how they operate in the workplace. In many US companies, there's a focus now, trend toward focusing on, just like how you have to focus on the physical infrastructure for occupational health and safety, the mental circumstances and the environment is becoming even more important in maintaining healthy working environments and healthy mental states in the workplace. It's a journey. We're not going to get there overnight, but certainly when we start to look at how it's affecting productivity, quality of life, personal interactions in the workplace. I remember a situation in Trinidad and Tobago many years ago where unfortunately a worker was exhibiting some level of instability, and she was carted off against her will, taken to the St. Anne's institution, and the rest is history. And there didn't seem to be a focus on the HR department or the IEP department putting the employee in, saying, how are you doing? Are you okay? Are you coping? We're not there yet because we still focused on 8 to 4. And the kind of colonial mindset where coming on a salt mine grind, as opposed to understanding that the affect part of it, the emotional part of it, the psychological part of it is extremely important in that person's productive endeavors. I would stop in the middle of the week and just go to the beach by myself and detach and drive to the North Coast and sit quietly for a couple hours. And I would unplug from devices. So I would read, or I would go to a movie by myself, just because I think alone time to process your thoughts and process your feelings and process your interaction with the world are all very important aspects of understanding how we maintain our mental health and our wellness. So I have different coping mechanisms that I've developed over the years. I cook. Cooking is very therapeutic for me. So I cook for my family. Over a year ago, my family and I decided we're going to set aside some money and cook and feed the poor. That's very therapeutic for me. And my aunt and my niece and my sister and my mother all join in, and they also enjoy it, and they also derive a mental therapy and a calm from it, because you feel that you're doing something worthwhile. And the bonding of the family in that moment also is very therapeutic for us. Start to become more self-aware. Put aside time for yourself. And you don't have to be extravagant. It's not to be expensive. A simple walk. During the pandemic, I started walking 2 years ago, just to maintain my sanity in the lockdowns in Trinidad and Tobago. And I've continued that because it has proven to be so therapeutic. People think you have to join a gym and pay a set of money. Find a safe space that you alone can exist in. Because prioritize your time with yourself. Prioritize focusing on your feelings, understanding what you're feeling in any particular moment. Prioritize taking time to ensure that you are well physically, emotionally, psychologically. Make sure that you are giving the time you need to make yourself whole, to continue to be whole, and remove yourself from any toxic situations, environments, or persons who may contribute to any sort of ill health or poor mental health in your life.
Carrying wellness. Like and share our post. Until next time, be safe.